Hello, I'm Paul Ferguson. With me is Richard Beaupre. Welcome to the final day of the 1989 Izvestiya tournament. Well, in about half an hour's time, we'll be going live to the sports hall Luzhniki in Moscow for our big game. But first, let's take a look at the results in the tournament so far. Day one saw the Czechs over the Finns. The Canadians beat the Swedish side, and the Soviets with an easy victory over West Germany. Day two, the Swedes with a 0-0 draw against Czechoslovakia. The Canadians and the West Germans also drew. And again, the Soviets overpowering the opposition 5-2 over Finland. Day three was a rest day, of course. The Soviets 6-1 over Sweden, 9-2 for Finland over West Germany, and 5-4 for Canada over Czechoslovakia. A good result for the Canadian side. Day five, Czechoslovakia, a surprise upset over the Soviet Union, 4-3. West Germany over Sweden, and the Canadians losing to Finland in the last 18 seconds. This is the way they look here on the final day. The Soviets with 6 points out in front. The Canadians and the Czechs tied there with 5 points apiece. The Finns there with 4, West Germany with 3, and the most disappointing showing of all from Sweden with just 1 point. Well, our big game today features the Soviet Union against Canada. What a game that's going to be. Well, before we go to our big match, let's join the third period of a great game played a few days ago between Canada and Czechoslovakia. Welcome back to the Izvestiya Cup, Day 7, the final day, the Soviet Union against Canada. What a game this is going to be. This is the decider. Well, let's take a look at the teams. They're already out on the ice, as you can see. The Soviet Union have Artur Irbe in goal, number 20. Big Stельнов, number 4, a great defenseman. Kravchuk has been doing well there, and Malahov, number 23, is also a strong defender, along with number 14, Shiryaев. Shipicyn has been surprisingly good. Maslennikov has missed a lot of chances, but he's been rough out there. Valery Kamensky and Homutov, Andrei Homutov, along with Bykov, number 27, have combined to make my favorite line, but keep your eye on Sergei Fedorov, number 29. He can put the puck in the net.
Well, Dave King would certainly like his Christmas to be made with a win over the Russians here. Strong goaltending from Warren Skordensky in the tournament. Great defense, and Jim Levens, Poudrier, and Ken Loveson's played well. Brad Schlegel's a very good offensive defenseman. That line of Wally Schreiber, Serge Boisvert, and Grant Martin, a little bit of a question mark today, with Grant Martin out with knee injury and possible flu. Lane Lambert, Todd Struby, Todd Brost have played very well together. Danny Grattan, Mike Blaisdell, very tough and aggressive forecheckers.
So it's perfectly poised for a great final game here. The Canadians are in the lighter jerseys, and they'll be playing from left to right. Artur Irbe is already out there between the pipes, and he's mixing up his goal crease right now to get that initial surface off the ice. The Canadians, Skordensky, once again will play in goal for them. He'll be wearing number 29, and he has played really well. This match, the most important one of the tournament. If the Soviets win it, then they've won the championship. If the Canadians win it, then the championship is theirs. The Czechs could also be in there, depending on who wins what and which game is tied, but it's a mathematical chance for them. The best chances here are for the Canadians and the Soviets. The Canadians need a victory to get 7 points. That'll leave the Soviets with 6. If the Soviets win it, they'll have 8-5 for Canada. So the best the Czechs could do would get 7, so they'd be in second.
Well, that Canadian team is young, but they've got a lot of experience out there, and I don't think they're in awe of this Russian team by any means. There's a lot of talent on both sides. I think we're going to see a tough checking but very offensive game.
from the face-off. The Canadians with Schlegel working it out of their own zone. Over the far side to Frost, number 19, trying to find Strube on the right wing, but Konstantinov getting it up to Bykov. Bykov takes the return pass. Strube over at the bench getting a new stick. Strube now head-manning the puck, and that goes all the way down the ice. Going back for it is Konstantinov. Lambert shadowing him. Bykov takes it at the blue line. And a collision there. Konstantinov fell down. The Soviets working their way in. The first shot by number 25 there. And that's held by Skorodensky. That first shot came off a skate. Andrei Lomakin got a piece of it, went into the corner, and eventually Skorodensky pulled out that loose puck and held onto it.
Well, the Canadians are obviously coming out hitting, Paul, as you saw Strube and Konstantinov collide just inside that Soviet blue line. There was some meat on that, that's for sure. They both went flying.
On that replay, we saw just how quick the Soviets react. A backhand shot for Malahov, handled easily by Skorodensky, and they'll have another face-off. Dave King behind the Canadian bench has done wonders with this young squad. Both teams without some of their best players. Kristiakov, a lot of the best players, of course, in the NHL right now, in the thick of their season. Levens all the way down the ice for Canada. Going back for it is Malahov. Malahov dropping it back. Fedorov for the Soviet Union, dropping it into the far corner. The Canadians, Schlegel firing it back in, icing the call, and Viktor Tikhonov, the Soviet coach, as always giving nothing away with the facial expressions.
Well, there's been some talk in the Party Journal, one of the local papers here, that the local fans are a little bit unhappy with the Russians for holding the puck too long, and they feel there's too much individual action on this team. They're impressed with that line of CSKA, of course, but they're not impressed with Kamensky taking quite a few penalties thus far in the tournament. A little bit of a lack of discipline on his part for an experienced player.
Oh, a good save by Skorodensky from that shot on the point, and the Canadians have 34 minutes in penalties going into this one. The Soviets a whopping 69 minutes in penalties. You can see there the trainer running the stone across the edge of the skate. Kamensky himself has 16, a lot for a Soviet player in a tournament like this. Viktor Tikhonov would rather have them on the ice than in the penalty box. The officials for today's game, the referee is a Swede, Håkan Borkman. Pavlovsky and Komisarov are the linesmen. They're both from the Soviet Union. Tюrikov getting it up on the wing, across over the far side. Number 9, Торгаев tries to get a handle on it, and it's punched all the way back in. Stельнов getting it forward to Торгаев. He can't control it, and once again Stельнов comes to the rescue. Maslennikov shoots it by Skorodensky in the Canadian goal, and we'll have another face-off as both teams change their lines here. Still in the first period, no score between Canada and the Soviet Union. And once again, we hear the organist getting into the swing of things.
I still think he's on the bonus plan, Paul.
He, of course, has to stop when they start the play. Blaisdell getting it over. Taken out by Shiryayev. Not a good pass by him. And the Canadians pass it right across the rink. Fired all the way into Irbe, but not a good move by him. Nemchinov eventually picked it off, and back from the Soviets. Stepanchev working his way in the corner, getting it back. Two Canadians on him there. Blaisdell doing some back checking, and the Canadians fired right across. Lovson got some wood to that. Kristich being checked. Nemeth getting it back to Lovson. The Canadians with Levens, Loveson and Levens have combined well throughout this tournament on the Canadian defense. Shiryayev getting it up. The Soviets being stood up at the blue line. The Canadians coming back well. Breaking in now is Strube. Strube trying to get ahead of Konstantinov, but Artur Erd, the goaltender, came 20 feet out of his net to pounce on that puck, and you can see the Canadian player being chased around the ice by Konstantinov.
There you see Strube going for this. Konstantinov's holding him off. Strube takes a late last-minute whack at the puck. Konstantinov went over to have words with him. I don't know if they were speaking the same language, but Konstantinov went directly to the referee complaining about that as well. So the face-off right in front of Irbe. Brosk will do the honors for Canada. Bykov for the Soviet Union. Bykov taking his time as they wait for everyone to get ready here. The official patching up a hole in the ice. And over the past couple of days, we have seen problems with the ice here in the Soviet Union. Kravchuk to Bykov. Bykov between the defensemen. Got the wrist shot away. Skorodensky caught it in the stomach and held on. Oh, Bykov trying to use Jim Levens for a screen here. Nice pass from Kravchuk, just a little short one. Bykov moves into the high slot. Levens there to stand him up. Skorodensky saw the shot.
No score here in the first period. The Soviets against the Canadians. Lambert shooting it across to Strube. Strube tied up along the boards. Kamensky is in there with Kravchuk. Odelin. It's behind the net now. Kamensky is taken out of the play by Levens. And back comes Canada over the blue line. Odelin. Selmar Odelin flips it in to the far side, and it's offside, and so we'll have another face-off. Both teams keen to get over that blue line, but of course the puck must be the first thing to go over the blue line. If a player precedes the puck, then the offside whistle blows. So the Canadians need this one, as do the Soviets. And neither team right now giving anything away. Schlegel for Canada. Schlegel getting around on the backhand side, takes a shot, rebound. Another shot is right on goal by Strube, and Strube brings his man down, and there's going to be a penalty on the play. The whistles and the jeers from the Soviet supporters show their disapproval on that play. Let's look at this replay again. The Canadians knocking on the door.
Well, I mentioned earlier, Brad Schlegel's a very good offensive-minded defenseman. Moves in on the backhand. Lane Lambert on the first rebound. Strube on the second. There's four of them caught in deep. Homutov was breaking out with the puck. Strube got a trip on him.
So a power play situation here in the first period. The Canadians have a man in the penalty box. Kamensky, Bykov, Homutov for the Soviets. And right now, that's their number one line. Krutov, Makarov, and Larionov used to be number one, but they're in the NHL doing what they do best over there. Homutov now. Homutov flips it in the far corner. Bykov is there with Homutov. Flipped into Kamensky. Still in the corner, a little cat and mouse. Right back to the point. The slap shot wide of the target. And the Canadians this time with Boisvert shooting it all the way down. Schreiber is chasing it. Schreiber gets to it first. Byakin takes him out of the play, and back come the Soviets. The Soviets with a power play, working it up with Kamensky. Along the boards now. Gusarov wants it, tipping it over to number 3, Kravchuk. Right in front of the net, Schlegel picks up the loose puck, flips it off the boards, and Grave chases it down. The Soviets, a long pass to the Canadian blue line. Skorodensky gets a touch on that, and Bobby Dulles gets it as far as the blue line. Bykov for the Soviets. Homutov now in the corner. Homutov to Bykov, trying to get it out front. Kamensky is there. The slap shot. They score! Right from the point. Igor Kravchuk got a power play goal that went through the pads of Warren Skorodensky to put the Soviets in the lead.
Well, Homutov and Bykov linking up together here. The puck's directed to the front of the net. You're a man down in this situation. Warren Skorodensky probably should have covered that puck and taken the face-off. There you see it again. Homutov in the corner. Bobby Dulles goes toward him. A little pass to Bykov. Directs the puck to the net. Skorodensky with a chance there to cover that puck. He probably should have, rather than letting it go out to the point. Igor Kravchuk comes in from the point, takes a shot, and it gets underneath him.
Well, Richard, that shot took a slight deflection, a change of direction there, possibly off Hadju's stick. But nevertheless, the Soviets lead 1-0 here in the first period. A power play goal for them.
Well, everyone knows they're so dangerous on that power play, and I'm sure the Canadians will take note on that as they want to stay out of that box.
Kristiakov getting that right across, now the rebound, and as steered away, 29, Sergei Fedorov getting a piece of that. So once again, it's the Soviets knocking on the door. Richard Hadju for Canada brings it back down the left wing. Hadju over the blue line, pushing that all the way around. Irbe smothers it behind the net. Stельнов comes out to pick it up. So it's action all around the Canadian net here in the first period. Kristiakov working his way over. No signal from the official as he was brought down right on the blue line. Fedorov takes a shot, and that goes off the pad of Skorodensky. That was from a sharp angle. Graves for Canada, behind the net. Schlegel now. Schlegel, a bad pass from him. Left right in front. Oh, and a good deflection there. Kravchuk tried to get that across to Fedorov. It just didn't come across. Tюриков getting that out front. Schlegel picks it up. His pass goes all the way into the neutral zone to Konstantinov for the Soviet Union. Back on the attack now. It's all Soviet Union at this moment in time. Tюриков took a shot, and that was wide. The Canadians just chasing the puck out there. Kravchuk lost it, and back comes Canada. Trying to split the defense. Going in is Blaisdell. Blaisdell hammers his man into the boards and loses his helmet, and eventually brings him down. That was Konstantinov, who was jumped to the ice from behind. Jeers and whistles again from the Soviet spectators. They wanted a penalty there.
Referee was right on top of that as well, and he just ignored it.
Well, it looked like a penalty to me, but he waved it off. Lievens for Canada. Lievens backhanding it, taken out nicely by Konstantinov, and he hammers Lievens into the boards. It really is getting rough in the Soviet zone. Boisvert picks that one up in the corner, gets it back to the point, the slap shot, and that hits a skate. That came from Bobby Dulles, 60 feet away. The Soviets, Maslennikov dropping it back. Maslennikov picks up the loose puck in the corner, taken out by Boisvert, but it's still in the zone. Lovson can't control it. Some good stick handling there by the Soviets, but really they're taking too long on the puck. Over to the far side. The Soviets changing on the fly. Breaking right in, number 18, the shot from Sestanchev. And a great save by Skorodensky.
Good save by Warren Skorodensky, but a really nice pass from Nemchinov on that play as he directed that ahead. There you see the pass, threaded the needle there with it, right straight through to Nemchinov. Skorodensky does well not to commit himself.
So this is the score here in the first period of our game between the Soviets and the Canadians. News on the PA in the Soviet Union that the Czechs are leading the West Germany side 2-0. The Soviets working it with Kamensky. Kamensky running into a wall of white shirts. Still it's Kamensky though, hanging on to that puck as Todd Ross steers him into the corner. Bykov gets it over. pushed out in front. The Canadians come up with now. It's a 2-on-1 break, and that was a bad pass. Strube picked it up. Schlegel got it back, and offside is the call.
A lot of pressure on the back checking, though. That 2-on-1 wasn't a 2-on-1 for very long, as the Russians were coming back hard.
It's very rare, Richard, sorry to interrupt, but it's very rare that you see the Soviets getting caught out.
That's right. They play great positional hockey, and Schlegel made that happen, though, as he's a defenseman, and he creates situations by being so offensive-minded.
From the face-off, Drost for Canada. And he's being told to leave the face-off circle by the Soviet linesman. Lane Lambert goes in there. Bykov was also told to get out. Homutov, Shiryaев. Shiryaев now being shadowed by Lambert. Lambert doing a good job of forechecking. Skordensky has to come out and smother that one.
Well, Dave King is using the experience of that Lane Lambert line with Todd Drost and Todd Strube, and playing them against the big line with Bykov, Homutov, and Kamensky out there.
Number 12, Lambert, has seen action with Quebec, and he spent some time in Dusseldorf in West Germany playing there. He has two brothers playing in Great Britain. Bykov this time is allowed to stay in the circle, and the Soviets come up with the puck right out front. Canada picking that one up. Strube on the right wing, working his way in over his own blue line. Eventually it goes to center, and Lambert flips it in. Strube chasing. Shiryayev gets there first and golfs that one around as far as the top of the circle. And the Soviets push it into center with Kamensky and Homutov. Homutov is checked nicely, and they bring that one over the blue line. And it took a while for him to blow that whistle for offside.
Well, the Canadian defense standing above at the blue line. And the forwards coming back well, as they are playing good ice hockey end-to-end here. I'm sure Dave King has told this line, look, we can't let this Soviet power line that they've got here with these three men have any skating room, so they're covering them pretty close.
A good crowd here in the Sports Hall Luzhniki to see this final game. This is the big one, and it's live between Canada and the Soviet Union. The Soviets, with that power play goal by Kravchuk, have gone into the lead, but it's far from over. Lots of ice hockey to come. Торгаев chasing. Торгаев turning nicely. Dulles, Bobby Dulles, gives that one away to Fedorov. Торгаев is dumped to the ice, and that's going to be a penalty. Bobby Dulles flattened Торгаев right in the corner, and the official put his hand up.
Well, if you're a young kid watching here, you know what your coach is trying to tell you. Aggressive forechecking and skating all over the ice can make things happen. As you see, number 10 did a lot of work in there, Торгаев. And Bobby Dulles was forced into putting a crunch on him, as he was in there for quite a while. Dulles with a high stick on him.
Team Canada penalty, Bobby Dulles, number 18, 2 minutes for cross-checking.
Well, they're calling that one cross-checking. It could have been cross-checking or high sticking as we approach the 10-minute mark, the midway point of the first period.
I think the referee got confused. He showed the sign of a high stick and then went over and called it a cross-check.
Stельnov took that shot from the point, and Skordensky cleared it away. Irbe comes back as that puck is dumped all the way down. The Soviets now with another power play. Byakin looks for the return pass, and he's way offside on that one. So we'll have another face-off just outside the blue line. The idea was right, the give and go, but the pass was way behind him.
Well, he was flying down that left wing, and as the player turned toward him, he was on his offside. The left shot on the right side, and he couldn't get enough on the pass to lead him.
Graves at center for Canada. The Soviets, as always, go with the line that happens to be out on the ice. V.V. Tikhonov, the coach, has a lot of confidence in all his players, and he goes with with whichever line is out there. Again, another offside call. The Soviets just a bit too keen, with Byakin again getting over that blue line.
Well, as you mentioned, they'll play with whoever's on the ice. It's just a part of that thorough coaching that the Russian system seems to have, as most teams work on a set power play or a set group of players or penalty killers. Not the Russians. They all can do the job.
Fedorov, Graves in the face-off circle. Byakin working his way in, is brought down by Lievens. And again, they're calling for a penalty out there. Still, play continues. Back to the point. The Soviets putting on the pressure once again. The Canadians have the box in front of the net. Byakin gets it over, the shot to the far side, and that trickles all the way down the ice, and the Canadians change on the fly. Artur Erb, the goaltender, flips it all the way around. Fedorov, Konstantinov, a rink-wide pass up to the blue line. Oh, and just a touch too far as number 9 goes in. Kravchuk back. Konstantinov now has it at the blue line for the Soviets. Sipichin. Konstantinov takes a shot, and that's kicked away by Skorodensky. Konstantinov again picks up the rebound along the boards and is hit by Boisvert. Back to the point. Торгаев, the rebound comes out. It's right in front of the net, still loose, and eventually it takes a bounce down the ice. Erb pushes it forward, and again the Canadians change. Sipichin breaking in on the wing. Over to the far side. Kravchuk. Maslennikov. Right in front, and a great save right in front of the net. And Konstantinov, who's been involved in several little skirmishes so far, mixes it up with Ken Loveson, number 6 on the Canadian defense.
Konstantinov doing good work to come in from the point there as the pass came to him. There you see good work behind the net. He sees Konstantinov coming in from the point. He threaded through that Canadian defense. Skorodensky came up very big with the save there.
Well, this is what the Soviets looked for, someone to penetrate that box, and Konstantinov did just that, didn't he? He went behind Blaisdell, right in there along with Nemeth, got the pass, and Skorodensky was equal to it. But Konstantinov is looking very physical out there. The shot, again, it's right out front. This time Blaisdell gets a piece of it and carries it down the ice. Blaisdell doesn't get it over the blue line, and back come the Soviets. They're chopping at it, but missing it completely. Now Blaisdell picks it up in the neutral zone. The long pass. Erb gets it up. Not a good one from him. That's right in front of the net. And Graves just missed it as he dislodged the goal. Graves was left all alone on that bobbling puck. And that was shot into the corner.
Close one there. Steve Graves knocking on the door. He was in very close, so by the time this puck got to him. There you see the play break down. It goes right to Steve Graves in front. Not a real lot the guy could do with it there.
Well, many of the souvenirs you can pick up here at the Izvestiya tournament in Moscow. Some great watches. All the way down, Skorodensky comes out for it and decides to call for a face-off. Nemchinov was right there, ready to pounce. The Canadian goalie taking no chances, as once again we see the Soviets advertising their wares.
They've gotten in well with the cameraman there as they're getting some shots, a little free advertising.
All the way back, Graves defending along the boards, and that's Skorodensky. Schlegel in the corner. The Soviets still in control of this puck. Nemchinov behind the net, gives it over, back to the point. Pushed back into the side of the circle. Nemchinov now. Nemchinov as number 28. Prestige right out front. The pass took a deflection, and he just couldn't get a stick on it. Odelin for Canada behind his own net. Canadians changing on the fly. Bobby Dallas pushes it up. Stельнов Stельнов getting it over. Kamensky takes the shot, and that bounced off Bobby Dulles and almost went in the net. Canadians firing that with Odlin there along the boards, getting it into the Soviet zone. Gross taking his man out. Struby chasing Stельнов. A long pass into the neutral zone, and the Soviets with Homutov dropping it back. Bykov takes a shot, and that's right on. And Skordensky kicks that one out and eventually skates out and pounces on it. And right now, it's all Soviet Union.
Good action toward that goal. Skordensky's doing very well to stand up, though, and come out and take the angle away. He's made some big saves in this period. A point to note that Danny Gratton's getting a lot of ice time tonight. He's double shifting on certain occasions. He's out there with Aru and Hadju at times, but also Grant Martin, a very popular figure on this Canadian team with that hard-working line of Martin, Schreiber, and Boisvert. Grant Martin's out with a knee injury he suffered in the Finnish game, and he's got the flu, so they'll miss him today.
Fedorov holding that puck along the boards and eventually shooting it in. Schreiber taken out of the play as they continue to kick it along. The shot by Canada as Graves chases it. Konstantinov getting a stick up. The Canadians with Boisvert behind the Soviet net. The Soviets, Byakin. The pass by him is picked up by Schreiber. Schreiber to Loveson. It was a bit too hard for him, and Dulles can't control it. Dulles loses his helmet. Being brought out front by the Soviets. A bouncing puck right in front. And they're getting very, very physical. A lot of pushing and shoving. Loveson got a piece of his man and eventually comes up with that puck, and he's squeezed out of the play. Schreiber pulls his man down and out of the play. Starting to get a lot of needle out there as Byakin pushes it over to the far side.
Good work by Ken Loveson in front of his own goal as the puck was bouncing around. There were two Russians just waiting for it to flatten. He took two men out.
Tkachuk took a shot. Skordensky had to come up with a save. Loveson, another shot, and that's an easy one for Skordensky as Yuri Shipichin was cruising right in front of the net. Teams will change their lines. When we take a look at this again, Richard, it really is getting rough out there.
Well, Loveson doing a good job again as he's really beating on Maslennikov in the corner. He was out there for quite a while. I'm sure he'll welcome this line change.
The Soviets with a major share of the action here in the first period. Heru comes over to Graves, and they change places with Schlegel. The defenseman goes over in front of the net. Canadians obviously have something up their sleeve or something they want to defend against, trying to prevent as many shots on goal as possible. Skordensky really has had his work cut out for him in the Canadian net. Puck held against the boards by Schlegel for Canada, so we'll have another face-off. 1-0 the score. The Soviets in the lead here in the first period. The Czechs leading the West German side 2-0 in their game. Well, if the Soviets win this, they win the tournament. If the Canadians win it, I think I'm safe in saying they win the tournament. But then there's also the Czechs. They have 5 points, so they could be up there too if they win. And the Soviets draw. There are several combinations, and right now Dave King is working out the combinations with a pen and a piece of paper as he tries to make up for the loss of number 23, Grant Martin, missing from the Canadian lineup. The Canadians now with Heru tried to get that one out, kept right in, and eventually the whistle blows. A bit of a slow whistle once again. Offside, the call. Well, a great crowd here in the sports hall Luzhniki in the Soviet Union, and they're enjoying every minute of this game. The organist getting them into the swing of things as he plays up-tempo music between the face-offs. Blaisdell and Stельнов mixing it up along with Kristich. Nemchinov got that one up to Kristich. Kristich carries it in the corner, ducks to avoid Lovson. The Canadians shoot it to center, and there's been no real purpose to their attack so far in the game. Early stages, of course. Levin's got that one up. Graves happy just to dump that one around. Well, Irbe picked that one up as Nemeth could have done more with it behind the net.
Well, he really could have kept going around that net, but tried a little quick, cute pass in front. Irbe saw it coming and just pounced on it.
So we get set for the face-off. To the right of Artur Irbe as he looks down the ice. Brost against Bykov. Bykov gets it around to Shiryaев. A long pass up to Homutov. To Bykov, trying to drop that back. Bykov comes up with it. Bykov works in, took a shot from a sharp angle, and that deflected up into the far corner. Kamensky is there. Shiryaев coming in from the point. A weak shot to the far side to Homutov. Homutov still has it. And this line starting to dominate out there. Konstantinov shoots that one in. It's a delayed offside as the Canadians bring it out slowly. The long pass right up to Lambert. Lambert, oh, he could have taken a shot. With so many Canadians in front of the net and everyone seemed to back off Lambert. He had time for a shot. The Soviets now on the attack, right in front of the net, and that one is shot just wide. A weak shot. Skordensky went with it, but it wasn't necessary to make the save. All the way back by Homutov, but there's no one there to pick it up. Struby and Kravchuk flattens Struby. Lovson. Schlegel being taken out as Schreiber went for it. Byakin gets that one right out front, and again, the Canadians end up clearing the puck away with Struby firing it down. Graves picks it up now. Graves behind the net. He's being shadowed by Kravchuk, held against the boards, and the Canadians, that's right out front of the net. And the whistle has blown, and they're starting to throw punches. Graves is in there, squaring off in front of the net, and it's very, very seldom you see a Soviet throwing punches. Kravchuk, Igor Kravchuk, number 3, and Graves were squaring off in front of that net, and the Canadians had a great chance to level the score there. Let's look at this again.
Well, there's a lot of action behind the net. Both teams have 2 men in there fighting for it. The puck comes out in front, and it's anybody's puck. There's 3 Canadians, 3 Russians. Graves and Igor Kravchuk really throwing a few shots at each other.
Well, Graves is making his way to the penalty box for Canada. And as you can see, the Soviets have a man in the penalty box too. So Kravchuk, Graves, both get 2 minutes for roughing. Still in the first period here, still 1-0, with Kravchuk getting the goal for the Soviets on that power play effort earlier on. Fedorov, a long pass, tries to pick up the rebound. Tristiakov turning nicely to the far side of the rink. Stельнов working his way in. That comes off the skate. The pass didn't come off. Fedorov working his way in behind the Canadian net. Dulles ties him up nicely as we approach the final minute of the first period. Dulles. Bobby Dulles now, some great defensive work by him to win that puck. Schreiber doing it on his own in the corner. Still it's Schreiber. Boisvert looking for someone to pass to. Schreiber now. Schreiber as Boisvert and Fedorov mix it up in the corner. The Soviets coming back with Kristiakov. Fedorov getting it over right in front for Stельнов, and he takes a shot, and that was high and hit the shoulder of Skorodensky. It's still kept in by the Soviets, and eventually they bring it out and bring it back in again. Another shot. Fedorov getting 2 bites of the cherry there. The rebound coming out, and the Canadians flip it down the ice as Kristiakov mixes it up. Some great ice hockey here, a lot of it coming from the Soviet Union here in the first period. Well, there goes the buzzer to end the first period. It's been close, it's been tight, Richard, and there's the score, 1-0 for the Soviets over Canada.
Just what we expected. Good end-to-end action, but a lot of hitting. They're definitely squaring up with each other.
Well, we've got lots more ice hockey action to come. Kravchuk picked up that first goal, number 3, on a power play effort. It did look like it took a tip, though.
Well, it was deflected in front. There were a couple of sticks and some skates in front of Warren Skorodensky. The play had broken down in front of him.
Well, how about the loss of Grant Martin? Is that affecting the Canadians?
Well, that's been a very good line, and I'm sure they are missing him because they do a lot of forechecking.
Join us in a moment for more ice hockey action here on Eurosport. Welcome back to Moscow. The score here between the Soviet Union and Canada. The Soviets won, Canada 0. We're at the start of the second period, and the teams are coming out on the ice. Well, it's been close, but for most of the period, the Soviets dominated. They scored on a power play situation with number 3, Kravchuk, taking a shot from the point. It wasn't a difficult one. It took a slight change of direction off a stick, and it went between the pads of Warren Skorodensky, the Canadian goalie. Richard, what would Dave King be telling the Canadians now during that first period break? What have they got to do to start going forward?
Well, I think basically they've got to create more flow offensively. When they get the puck just inside the Soviet blue line, they want to make those defenders back off them or try and stand them up and look for some shots of their own. Warren Skorodensky came up very big on certain situations in that period, and he held them in there.
Well, at times we saw the Soviet defense, we saw that they were vulnerable, they were out of position, so it is possible to catch these guys out of position, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt about it, as both teams are checking very closely. I'm sure Dave King's happy with the way his side is playing man for man. They're keeping the Russians from getting the freewheeling and flowing patterns of passing that they like to accomplish, and definitely this is anybody's game, and I think the Canadians want to just keep attacking that goal. That's all there is to it.
Well, at the end of that period, we saw some pushing and shoving, and a couple of punches were thrown. It shows how much is at stake here. Both teams want to win this one to win the tournament. The official has blown his whistle now. The Soviets looking for their 18th win. This tournament started back in 1967, and the Soviets have taken it 17 times. The Czechs 4 victories, and the Canadians won it once back in 1987.
Well, as we mentioned with the Canadians on the forechecking in this past few games that you've seen, that line with Grant Martin, as we mentioned it before, Boisvert and Wally Schreiber, they've been a great forechecking line, and they are missing Grant Martin out there, as he's a very nice playmaker, and that line has accomplished quite a bit of hard work during this tournament. The Canadians have been forced to change their lines up a little bit. Danny Gratton is seeing some extra ice time out there, double shifting here and there. They've got the horses to do it, though, and if they just keep the forechecking up, they might force errors in that Soviet zone.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the teams now off the ice, and the organist start to lay down a number on the keys, as he's done so many times. Kravchuk in the penalty box for the Soviet Union. Steve Graves for Canada, both for roughing at the end of the first period. 1-0 the score, the Soviets in the lead. The Canadians now playing from right to left in the light jerseys. Hakan Bjorkman, the Swedish referee, drops the puck in second period, well and truly underway. Bykov for the Soviets, getting it up on the wing. Bykov with Kamensky and Homutov. The shot just wide of the target, the rebound right in front, and Skordensky was there. Dulles, Schlegel for Canada. Brad Schlegel to Bobby Dulles behind the Canadian net. Bobby Dulles bouncing it off the boards, and Schlegel now getting it up to Dulles. Dulles running into some water on the ice, and he had to backtrack and pick that one up. The Soviets dump it in. Schlegel for Canada on the right wing. The Canadians, a rink-wide pass, no one there to pick it up. The Soviets scoop it down the ice into the Canadian zone. Teams changing already on the fly. Malahov circling, getting it up, and eventually Struby for Canada. Struby, who's played so well, not doing well here as he brought it right in front of his own net. Canada now having problems in the neutral zone as they run into that wall of red shirts on the blue line. The Soviets also changing on the fly, coming down on the left wing. Loveson for Canada, picking up the loose puck in the corner. Schreiber takes his man heavily into the boards and drops him to the ice. The puck is held as Loveson scoops it out eventually, but the whistle blows and we'll have a face-off.
Well, it's good work by Wally Schreiber to come back and help Ken Loveson as Igor Kravchuk was in that corner with the puck. The Canadians were still in the middle of getting one man back on the ice through a line change, and they'll take the face-off in that situation. It will come outside the zone as Kravchuk was knocked down on top of the puck. Face-off comes outside the blue line.
Graves being told to bear down by the players on the Canadian bench. The long shot in, wide of the goalie. Loveson now. A little move by him as he's held up by Pavel Torgayev. Shot all the way down by Canada, going back for it. Igor Kravchuk, the goal scorer for the Soviets. Tipped out into the neutral zone. Wally Schreiber back again to do some defensive work. Loveson for Canada. To Lievens. Lievens again overskates it and is knocked to the ice by Torgayev. Back to the Soviets, working their way in now. The shot right on the target. Skordensky at the top of his crease comes out and makes the save.
Well, that play right there resulted as a result of Turgeyev doing a nice job in the neutral zone of taking Jim Lievens off the puck.
We understand that we've just been joined by CBC Radio in Canada. They were very much interested in the result of this game for the obvious reasons. Welcome aboard, Canada. Unfortunately, your team is trailing right now, 1-0, but lots of hockey to come. The Canadians working it out over their own zone. Hadju now for Canada. Hadju getting it over to the right wing. Grattan, Danny Grattan, getting a piece of that, and Archer Erb, the goalie for the Soviet Union, made an easy save. So we'll have another face-off. A lot of stop-start action here in this game. The goaltenders content to hang on to those pucks when they come around that net, calling for face-offs. They don't want to take any chances. This one's going to be close. It's close right now. Danny Grattan for Canada, losing out. The Soviets working it out. Now coming in on the right wing, the shot by number 11, Maslennikov, wide of the target. Hadju for Canada, behind his own net. Hadju looking for Schlegel at the blue line, and he's got him. The pass by Schlegel, too far for anyone, and he has to go back and pick it up. Teams changing on the fly. The pass out, the Soviets regrouping back to the point. An easy shot steered away by Skordensky. Satishin was right in front of the net looking for the rebound. Getting a bit sloppy here as the pace slows down. We're in the second period, the opening stages. Pushed to the far corner. Schlegel Schlegel up to Hadju. Hadju runs into a couple of red shirts. Sufficient for the Soviets. Can't get by Hadju. And eventually it's dumped all the way down the ice. The Soviets touch it and will have an icing called. Stельнов first to get back there. And both teams changing now. And Richard, we're going through a phase here where they're slowing it right down. A fast and furious first period, but things are starting off slow in the second.
Well, it's very close checking out there, as there's not a lot of room for people to freewheel, as we mentioned before. They're really staying on their men and playing it close.
Dave King on the Canadian bench, barking out the instructions for the Canadian players. Lievens for Canada behind his own net. Getting it past Malahov. Still kept in by the Soviets and eventually trickles out. Shiryaев. Shiryaев at center. Still Shiryaев takes the shot right on the target. Skorodensky had to hang on to that when he lost it in his jersey, and we'll have another face-off. We've got a great crowd here, Richard, and it's so nice to see as we look at the replay of this. Shiryaев allowed to walk in, no one comes to get him. Now Poudrier eventually decides to take him at the blue line, but it's so nice to see Canadian flags waving next to the Soviet flag.
Oh, that's what it's all about. The action's on the ice, and the crowds are there to enjoy it.
Nemchinov being shadowed by Nemeth. Sepentsev. Sepentsev to Konstantinov. Konstantinov keeps it in, kicked out by the Canadians, and Lievens. Sepentsev for the Soviets. Konstantinov, who's played a major role in this game so far, has been very, very physical, throwing a few punches out there. Wants to show that he may be one of the elder statesmen, but he sure as heck has something to say about what's going on in this game. Bykov fakes the shot and tries to go by Lievens. Lievens eventually drags him into the corner. Lievens still hanging on to him. Stepantsev. Bykov being spun around. The backhand shot is right on the target. It's right out front. And number 28, Kristich, fanned on a shot. He was left wide open in front of the net. Skorodensky for Canada was down on the ice, and he fanned on the shot.
Well, Bykov showing how dangerous he is, as he was all over the puck, and he had Jim Lievens all over him. And Jim Lievens is not a small defenseman. The puck came around. There's a lot of action. It was a good play by Steve Graves to lift the stick of Kristich there, as he had an open net as Skorodensky was down. There you see that replay again. That puck is there. Kristich has a shot. Steve Graves lifts the stick very nicely to cover him up.
Lievens, as a result of that play in front of the net, goes into the box for holding. He had a grab on Bykov, number 27, so it'll be a power play situation for the Soviets.
Well, as that play is picking up in the Canadian zone, it's important that the Canadians ice this puck and get it out of there and kill this penalty off.
Most of the pressure, once again, coming from the Soviet Union here in the second period. They lead by 1-0. Canada now bringing it out. They're a man short. Coming down on the left wing is Serge Boisvert. Boisvert steered out of the play, and Bykov comes up with it. Bykov head-manning the puck over the red line. Kamensky wearing number 13, pushes that one all the way around. Dulles hammered him into the boards. Homutov takes the shot from a sharp angle, and that goes over the top of Skorodensky, and he ducked on that one. Byakin from the point into the corner. Homutov now at the circle again. Homutov, well, he faked the shot this time. Kamensky, a little cat and mouse as he works it into the circle. Kamensky back to the point. The Canadians with that box. The deflection comes out, and the Canadians pick it up now. Kravchuk took the shot. Graves takes his time now and takes a bouncer right on the Soviet goaltender, Artur Irbe. Kamensky, a long pass. The Canadians yelling two-line, but the whistle didn't sound. Working their way in is Byakin right in front of the net. And a great save by Skorodensky. Bykov couldn't hang out of that. Another shot. This time they score! Skorodensky was down. The Soviets came in from a sharp angle and put it behind him. 2-0 to score.
Well, the Soviets so quick to pounce on that puck. And Goran Skorodensky did a great job here. Ken Loveson was caught going down on the play. puck came out in front. Kamensky missed a golden opportunity. The 2-on-1 situation, as you see it there with Kamensky, couldn't get the shot off. Play still going around. Skordensky's down. He made one save. Homutov came back to the front of the net and flipped the puck over him. The Russians so quick to jump on that puck.
Well, there's a good shot of the goal scorer, number 15, Homutov. And we said at the beginning of this game that Homutov, Bykov, or Kamensky would be the big line. And they're proving it out there, dominating the situation every time they get on the ice. Торгаев gets that one right out front, and that's cleared away. And again, the Soviets back into the thick of things. Another power play goal. So these penalties costing the Canadians dearly. Lovson shadows his man, number 21, Kristiakov, right in front of the net. It's brought back in, the puck is loose right in front. And the Soviets still control this game. The Canadians a little flat-footed out there. Fedorov working his way in, takes a shot wide of the target. Kristiakov now in the corner for the Soviets. Lovson pushes him again. Kristiakov still in control as he tries to bring that out front. Kristiakov is working his way right in front. He's got all the room in the world out there. Skordensky follows him right around. And what are the Canadians doing? They let him walk right in front. There was no one there at all. And Kristiakov eventually took himself out of the play, but when he passed it in front, there were still no Canadian defensemen there.
You didn't see the white shirts and start counting them. You'd think it was Kristiakov versus Warren Skordensky out there. He had time to eat a sandwich as he came all the way around the net, skated through the slot. You could see Fedorov putting his hands up on his head. Like, how did we not get a goal out of that? Warren Skordensky must feel like he doesn't have any friends out there at the moment.
Well, he takes a well-deserved drink. And the eyes have gone shut on the face of Dave King, the Canadian coach. He's looking down. He's trying to put on a brave face, but right now, the Canadians are being completely outplayed here in the second period. It's still the Soviets keeping it in. Now, Canada with Graves, Steve Graves, with Schreiber. But once again, it's a weak shot, but once again, you see 4 or 5 Soviets coming right back into the thick of the action. That's one of the differences right there. The Soviets not allowing them to get a shot on goal. Maslennikov getting that one right over. Eventually the Canadians pick it up with Schlegel to Graves. Graves fanning on the pass. Maslennikov coming back, drops it right on the blue line, and it trickled just out over the blue line, so we'll have an offside call. The Canadians looking less than sharp here in the second period as they trail by 2-0.
Well, the Canadian forwards have stopped skating back hard as well, as that was a 3-on-2 there. Fortunately, the puck just barely trickled over the blue line for an offsides call, as Bobby Dulles and Schlegel have been forced to back in a little bit. The Russians, on the other hand, are all over the ice. They're really skating hard. They're going end-to-end, and they're making it really difficult for the Canadians to put any pressure on Artur Irbe at all.
Well, the Soviets out on the ice now have a lot to prove. I think a lot of people said that they wouldn't be the same aggressive, high-scoring team without the likes of Larionov, Krutov, Makarov, Fedosov. But here they are, 2 goals up on Team Canada here in this final game of the Izvestiya Cup. Struby brings that one in, a step offside, and we'll have a face-off just outside the blue line.
Well, Dave King's just got to keep the boys going. He's got to just do something, say something to get them motivated out there.
Well, perhaps this musical interlude will spur them on. I doubt it very much as Poudriere gets it over to Lievens. Lievens, the backhand is pushed away by the goaltender. Lievens keeps it in. Lievens now winding up, takes the shot, and that's right on the target. The Canadians coming into the action as Artur Irbe gloves that one and calls for another face-off. Well, that's encouraging if you're a Canadian supporter, but that kind of shot will never go in the net. They've got to keep it down so the players can either get a rebound or a deflection. The glove-high shots will be picked off like cherries all day long by this goaltender. The Soviets now with a 2-on-2 break. Happy to shoot that one all the way around. Skorodenski decides to put the glove on that one behind his net. And the players get together and have a little chat, but it's nothing really serious at all.
Well, Skorodenski was down, and Daniel Poudrier just saying to Christich, I don't think I'd bother going near him, as he rubbed him into the boards. No damage, nothing serious.
Well, the Swedish referee, Håkan Björkman, hasn't had a lot to do. Called a few penalties, but nothing too serious out there. Both teams are keeping it physical, but keeping it clean too. The face-off to the right of Skorodenski in the Canadian net. Bykov wins it, as he has done so many times, and that shot just wide of the target. Byakin gets that in front. There's no one there to pick it up, and it bounces all the way down, and Stельнов picks it up. Stельнов intercepted nicely by Graves, or Grattan rather, and he gives it away. Homutov for the Soviets. Kamensky working his way in and tries to poke that in between the post and the pad, and Skorodenski came up with a good save. And once again, Richard, the forward allowed to walk right in there. No one picked him up at all. We look at the replay, no one's there. Grattan is behind his man, takes a lackadaisical swipe at him and then lets him go.
While the Canadians are standing around in their own zone and they're watching the Soviets skate with a puck. Granted, Homutov and Kamensky aren't the easiest men in the world to stop. They've both got nice moves, but there should be somebody on them.
Bykov at center, kicking that one in, and he'll pick it up himself. Bykov and Homutov and Kamensky doing a lot of the work out there for the Soviets. Bykov pushing that one back. Kamensky. Now it's Canada. Schreiber, Wally Schreiber working his way in. Wally Schreiber to Boisvert. Boisvert takes a shot, and that goes off a defenseman's pad. Boisvert still fighting Byakin for it, and the Soviets with Homutov. To Stельнов, trying to split that defense. The pass comes back. Stельнов, the shot right on the target. Skorodenski lost it for a while. Kamensky got the woodwork on that, but eventually the whistle blew. Skorodenski really didn't know where that one was. It was right under him, but he didn't know that, did he?
No, the shot came right at the point where the defenseman was stepping up on the player. Warren Skorodenski did well to hang on to that one. Good work by the Russians. You can see they've got it going the way they like. They like to have the drop passes, the man skating away from the play, crisscrossing. They're doing what they want out there.
They're bringing it in, and one of the problems right now is the Canadian defensemen are backing right up on Skorodenski, aren't they?
Well, if the forwards aren't coming back hard enough, the defense is forced to back in a little bit. And with these drop passes that the Russians leave, it's very important that a forward comes back to help back check.
Steve Graves, Hadju, the back pass to Graves, a weak shot, goes into the corner. Nemeth stops, and that's given away by Fedorov over to Konstantinov. Konstantinov, the return pass now to Fedorov, the shot into the far corner. Торгаев is dumped to the ice, and the Canadians losing control along the boards, and that's brought out, or tried to, by Торгаев right in front, and again Skorodenski. This time it's in the net. Pavel Торгаев was lying on the ice. The Canadians didn't seem to want it, so number 10 says, thank you very much, I'll put it in the net. 3-0 the score here in the second period. Let's see this again.
Well, you see the replay, it's fast and furious around that net. It was a really nice pass out in front. Skorodenski did well to make the first save, but Торгаев was just getting back up. He was on one knee. The rebound was laying there. Put it behind Skorodenski for the goal. There you see that big save. The next shot went wide. It came back out in front. Торгаев just had to put a touch on it. Warren Skorodenski was down.
Well, the midpoint in the second period is not a good point right now for Canada. They trail by 3-0. Complete domination here by the Soviets. Outplaying, outshooting, outpassing, out everything over Team Canada. Still lots of hockey to come. And there's confirmation of the score. 3-0, the Soviet Union over Canada in the second period. This is live from the Sports Hall Luzhniki in Moscow, and the spectators here, Richard, really enjoying this one. Capacity crowd, the first time we've had one during the tournament, and they really are enjoying it. Getting into the swing of this Christmas festival here in the Luzhniki Sports Hall.
Well, that's right, as the Soviets are in a situation here where they're at home, and if they win this game, they win the tournament. It's as simple as that. The fans are here and they're supporting their team. And everybody knows when Canada and Russia play, it's a good crowd no matter where in the world it's being played.
Another shot right on Skorodensky. The rebound smothered by him, so we'll have a face-off. And once again, we see the Canadian defense backing right up into the crease. Number 9, Tkachuk came in, cut right across the slot area. Still allowed to go, took the shot. Number 11 was there, Maslennikov, to try for that rebound, but it was smothered by the pad of Skorodensky.
Well, the Soviets look very relaxed, very confident. And as we said earlier, they're doing exactly what they want to do. They're really moving that puck around nicely.
From the face-off, the Canadians now bringing it out over their own line. Boisvert's pass to Struby was intercepted, and the Soviets back on the attack. Maslennikov cuts in front of the net. This time he's taken out of the play and not allowed to proceed by Lovson. A good move by Lovson for Canada. Struby dropping it back. Lane Lambert, who's been quiet in this game so far for Canada, took a weak shot. And the Soviets now with Maslennikov took it at center ice and was bounced into the boards, and he lost his helmet. He took a heavy check there, and he's looking groggy as he makes his way to the bench. He doesn't care about his helmet. He just wants to get off the ice. We'll have another face-off.
Good play by Samar Odolin to move up on the forward for Russia as he got that pass. It was a little bit of a suicide pass. The puck came to him. He didn't really want it there. He had stopped it. It's too late for him to stop Odolin coming at him. He paid the price.
Well, Odolin, who spent some time with Edmonton, knows all about checking people at center ice. The Soviets now coming in on the backhand side. Nemchinov taken out nicely by Bobby Dollis behind the net. Grattan loses it, and the Soviets have it. The shot just wide. Nemchinov wants it. Dollis comes up with it and bounces it off the boards. Still, the Soviets keep it in the Canadian zone. Grattan pushes it behind his own net. Boisvert running into problems. The pressure is on. Struby shoots that one around, and eventually it trickles out into the neutral zone. And the Soviet Stельнов come up with the puck. Schreiber now for Canada, getting it ahead to Boisvert. Across, Levens trying to get it back to Grattan. Grattan can't control it, and it trickles out over the Soviets' blue line. Schreiber for Canada. A delayed penalty on the play going against the Soviets. Skorodensky has come off the ice. The Canadians have thrown on an extra attacker. Shiryaев touches it. The whistle goes. And the penalty is being called now by Bjorkman, the Swedish referee. No one wants to go to the penalty box. Skorodensky makes his way back onto the ice. Slashing is the call. Sergei Nemchinov into the penalty box for the Soviets, and Canada will have a power play situation. They need some inspiration from somewhere. They desperately need a goal to bring themselves back into this game.
That's exactly right. Power play situation. If they can get a goal here, they could be right back into it. They need a lift.
Dave King will go with Schlegel and Poudrier on defense. Todd Frost will do the honors. Lambert out on the wing along with Graves. So the Canadians, with their backs to the wall here, getting it over to Schlegel. Brad Schlegel pushes it into the Soviet corner. Graves punches that one out front, and the Soviets come up with the puck and come back 2-on-2. Well, a nice little move there to push it back to the Soviet defense. A long shot by the Soviets, killing off this penalty. Do the Canadians want it? Now they pick it up. Poudrier a bit too far from anywhere. A two-line pass is called as Graves picked it up over the center line, and we'll have another face-off. The Soviets, definitely the most aggressive side out there. They're stringing together the passes, and they're putting the puck behind Skorodensky. 3-0 the score here in the second period. The Canadian supporters waving their flags, but I have a feeling right now their hearts are not quite in it as much as the Soviet supporters are. They're loving this one. Prost, as we get set for the face-off inside the Canadian zone. Bykov wins the draw, gets it back to Ilya Byakin. Byakin shoots it in, and Poudrier goes for it. Daniel Poudrier for Canada brings it out over the blue line. The Canadians, Schlegel giving it to Brosk. Brosk can't hang on to it, and the Soviets with Homutov behind their own zone, and Konstantinov will come out. Konstantinov hanging on to that nicely as he still rags the puck in the center ice, much to the approval of the Soviet supporters. This time they shoot it all the way down the ice, and both teams changing on the fly. The Canadians with Nemeth. Not a good move by him as he picks it up in his own zone and tries to bring it out once again. Graves wants the pass. It went off a skate. Loveson shoots it in. Lane Lambert is tied up along the boards by Fedorov. The Canadians still keeping it in. Now the Soviets have it, and the break is on. It's a breakaway by number 10, Pavel Торгаев, who scored that last goal, and he was brought down from behind, and there's going to be a penalty on the play.
Well, Ken Loveson did well just to get back there and cover him. As this play broke down at the blue line, Loveson was standing on the blue line, a bit flat because he's waiting for the pass. The forward Торгаев broke away for the Soviets. Ken Loveson did a good job just to get back. Referee saw it as a trip as Торгаев fell over the top of Loveson, who dove back on him.
Penalty team Canada. Ken Loveson, number 6, 2 minutes for tripping. Time
Tripping is the call against Loveson. Odelin was chasing 2 for Canada. Торгаев, so dangerous when he's out there for the Soviets, had to be brought down. So both teams with a man in the penalty box. The face-off in front of Skorodensky for Canada. Schreiber. The Canadians shoot that one all the way down the ice. Malahov touches it, and that'll be an icing call. So the Canadians with their backs to the wall, trailing by 3 goals here in the second period, having difficulty stringing passes and shots on goal together. Complete domination by the Soviets. Even when they were a man up, they looked in trouble. Malahov takes a shot for the point. Levens brought it down, and he works his way up with Boisvert. Boisvert now with Levens. Offside the call as number 12, Sergei Nemchinov, steps back onto the ice, and so it's a power play for the Soviets.
Well, Dave King is over on that bench trying to find some kind of formula to get some sort of sustained offense going here. They just haven't really tested Irbe at all in this period.
Capacity crowd here in the sports hall Luzhniki in Moscow. Few whistles. The Canadians are taking their time to get set for this face-off. Tюриков getting it back behind his own net. Shipicyn getting it over on the wing. Tkachuk. Shipicyn now. Shipicyn, the Canadian setting up the box in front of the net. Shipicyn gets it right across, and Tюриков took a shot from close in and missed the target completely. Tюриков to the top of the circle. Maslennikov, and we saw Maslennikov miss it several times the other day. Boisvert pushed that one away as Tkachuk was right in there for the Soviets. Still the power play on. Tkachuk. Shipicyn right in front of the net. Number 9, Tkachuk was there, but Skorodensky for Canada pounced on it. So we'll have a face-off, and it really is action all around the Canadian net.
Well, it sure is, as the Canadians have the box set up, but the Russians are giving and going so well at the moment. There was a near goal right there, as Warren Skorodensky did well to hang on to that one.
Strube in the face-off circle against Shipicyn. The puck trickling down the ice, and the Soviets go back for it. Tюриков, a long pass up on the right wing. Maslennikov dropping it back, held in nicely by Tkachuk. Pushed into the corner, the Soviets. Tkachuk fanned on the pass. He had a good chance to put it right in front, and then he was dumped to the ice. Schlegel out there doing some good work for Canada. Shipicyn for the Soviets on the far side of the rink. Shipicyn behind the net. Tkachuk to Shipicyn. Stельнов back to Shipicyn as he walks into the circle. Shipicyn for the Soviets, trickles that one right in front of the net. It's a bouncing puck, and Canada gets a piece of it and flips it down the ice. Lovson steps back on the ice and races right across as the Canadians change on the fly. They're back to full strength. All the way down the ice, the Canadians chase it. Lievens touches it. The icing call is waved off as we approach the 16-minute mark, and that shot came from the blue line and hit Skorodensky and was deflected into the corner. Lomakin wrestles in the corner along with Nemchinov. Lomakin, still as Lomakin, working his way into the corner for the Soviets, being shadowed by Lievens rather. Back comes Canada as they pick it up. Nemeth on the left wing tries to center it, and Shiryaев shoots that one all the way around, out over the blue line to Poudrier. Dulles to Nemeth. Nemeth poke check nicely by Nemchinov. Shiryayev. Lomakin with a lot of time to Shiryayev. Right in front of the net, and that cranked off the post. It's loose. Skorodensky gets a glove to it. Dulles has fallen on it, and eventually Skorodensky came up with the loose puck. Christich was right there in front of the net. He was eventually dumped by Dulles, but the puck was still loose. Let's look at this replay.
Well, it was kept in by Shiryayev right in front of the net. It goes, you can hear it rattle off the post. Bobby Dulles is all over Christich, but he still manages to get a weak shot off. And Warren Skorodensky did very well to get a glove on that. There it is, Shiryayev keeping it in at the blue line. Forwards all alone in front, rattles it off the post. Skorodensky's looking around. Bobby Dulles finally hauls Christich down.
Well, that was a high puck. Christich brought it down, and he thought, well, this is going to be easy, but he didn't reckon on Dulles being there. Second period score, 3-0 for the Soviets over the Canadians. Kravchuk getting that power play goal in the first period. Homutov, another power play goal at the start of the second. And Torgaev, number 10 for the Soviets, banging that one in while he was lying on the ice to make it 3-0. The Canadians with a lot of work to do. The face-off to the right of Skorodensky, or to the left of him as he looks down the ice, to the right of him as the players from the Soviet Union look down at him. The pass too far for Lambert. Strube being muscled out of the play by Kravchuk. Lane Lambert chases it. Brost runs some interference for him. Lambert gets it back to the point. Lovson shot it in, and the Soviets shoot it all the way down to Skorodensky's doorstep. Well, Skorodensky had a lot of time to move that out, but Kamensky was waiting for her, and so Skorodensky holds it down for a face-off. The Canadians in all sorts of trouble out there. And we've just heard that the Czechs are leading the West Germans 3-0 after the second period. So Czechoslovakia having a good run in this tournament. They lost to the Canadians, but they beat the Soviets. The only team to do so far. Bykov lost the draw, but the Soviets come up with the puck eventually in the corner. Kamensky trying to do some dipsy-doodling. He loses the puck. Schreiber's out there with Schlegel. Schlegel flips that one in to Irbe. Ilya Byakin taken out of the play by Boisvert, held against the boards by Boisvert, and will have another face-off.
Well, the Czechs are in a game of their own over in that other rink, and it's 3-0, but I'm sure they're concerned about how the Soviets are doing in this game.
Getting set for this face-off, we look at the face of V.V. Tihonov, one of the most successful coaches in the history of ice hockey. CSKA mastermind, and the Soviet national team, of course, the brains behind so many class performances. Up on the wing to Torgaev. A drop pass picked up by the Canadians as they work it out of their own zone. Schreiber dumped to the ice. No one goes in to get it. Not a lot of penetration by the Canadians, and the Soviets are allowed to walk out. Levens eventually picks it up, passes it around, and gets it back. The Soviets really skating hard during this second period. They're all over the Canadians, and the Canadians don't really seem to want the puck right now. Boisvert happy just to bounce that off the boards. Danny Grattan brought to the ice at center ice, and Konstantinov goes in. Graves hits Konstantinov. The Soviets come up with it, and back on the attack they come. All the Canadians back, and eventually they pick it up with Nemeth. Nemeth has skated hard during this period, hasn't been able to come up with anything at all, but he's working like a workhorse in that corner. Nemeth still kicking the puck. Fedorov is in there. Tюrikov, it's still loose. Tюrikov eventually grabs it, throws it forward, and the official, rightly so, says you can't do that, we'll have a face-off.
Well, Steve Nemeth on his own in that corner, struggling with two Russians. He's giving it his all, that's for sure.
The Canadians looking flat-footed. They don't seem to want that puck, and when they get it, they're happy to flip it away.
They're just not putting it together as a team like they have in some of these previous games in this tournament. As you notice, a lot of Canadian forwards coming down the ice. They're in a 1-on-3, 1-on-2. They need help from their line mates. They're not playing as a unit at the moment.
From the face-off in the Soviet zone, Todd Brost. Yuri Shipicyn will do the honors. And for the most part, the Soviets are winning the face-off. This time, Levens gets it, takes a weak shot on goal as we go into the final 60 seconds of this period. Another face-off with just 57 seconds remaining. 3-0 the score for the Soviets over Canada. I'm sure that Team Canada will welcome the break, and Dave King will have a lot to say to the boys when the whistle goes. The Canadians now would truly love, with Ross, truly love to score one to help their morale during the break. Shot all the way down the ice by Kravchuk. Levens in front of his own net. Levens backhands that off the plexi. Still, it's not out. Canada having problems getting out of their own zone. Tюrikov. Lane Lambert now for Canada. The seconds ticking away. He takes a long shot, and that whistles all the way around as Struby goes in for it. Brost mixes it up with Shipicyn. Shipicyn comes up with the puck. The Soviets winning these one-on-one battles. Lovson golfs that one out. The Soviets wait for their team to get back on side as Tюrikov happy to shoot that one into the neutral zone. Shipicyn for the Soviets. And there goes the buzzer to end the second period. The Soviets 3, Canada 0. Well, the Soviets really pouring it on here in the second period, Richard.
Well, they totally dominated, and Warren Skorodensky will welcome this 15-minute interlude between periods, as he saw a lot of rubber in that period. The Russians looking so strong.
The Canadians just unable to get anything going.
They just can't sustain any sort of offensive attack on Artur Irbe at all.
Well, join us in a moment. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to the Izvestiya Cup here at the Sports Hall Luzhniki. The Soviet Union dominating this game over Canada. They lead by 3-0 as we wait for the teams to come out on the ice. The Canadians, under the supervision of Dave King, will be taking every second in that dressing room to get their act together and to try to do more than they've done over the first two periods.
Well, Dave King's put together a young team here. They've come a long way. They've got a lot of games to go. They're going to play a 70 or 75 game schedule as a team together. There's all kinds of grounds of improvement. We've seen good signs out of this team. Their backs are up against the wall. This is true. They've got a long trip home, but they've got 20 minutes here to come out and just go for it and do everything they can do to try and even this game up.
Well, we can't blame it on the ice because the ice here looks good. In the Olympic sports stadium, the ice there was bad. It was wet, it was bumpy, it was choppy. But here the ice is good. We understand, however, that a few of the players have had tummy upsets. They're not happy with the food. They're staying at the Sport Hotel, and they're not too impressed with the conditions there. It's a bit like a youth hostel. And we've just heard that the Czechs have beaten the West Germans 5-0, a great win for them. The Soviets coming out on the ice now. So Czechoslovakia now have 7 points. Soviet Union 6 and the Canadians 5. Perfectly poised for a great finish. The Soviets got to win this one to win the tournament.
Well, that's true. They're confident. They're at home. They look relaxed. They've got a 3-0 lead. I'm sure the Czechs are in their dressing room right now wondering what's going on in that other rink. How are the Soviets doing over there? They're probably pushing for the Canadians, if anything, at this point, because they were level with the Canadians coming into this game.
Well, I'm sure they are. Let's take a look at the goals coming here. That one coming from Homutov in the second period, number 15. Getting a piece of that one and pushing it by Skorodensky. This is the one where Homutov did a lot of work in that corner to bring it out. This time, number 10, Торгаев, picks up a loose puck to make it 3 for the Soviets. Here it is here. He perseveres, gets the rebound after he's knocked, or after he goes down on one knee, rather. Once again, off the backboards there and behind the goaltender. So 3-0 the score. And they're still waiting for all the players to get on the ice. This is how it looks after the Czechoslovakian victory. They're out in first place with 7 points. The Soviets and the Finns both have 6, so a strong finish by Finland. The Canadians there with 5 and West Germany with 3, and the most disappointing performance of all has to be from the Swedish side.
Well, there were great things expected of the Swedish team, and one of the Russian coaches before this tournament started picked the Swedes to be the favorites in the tournament.
Well, they really haven't performed well. The Finns came back strong, beating the Canadians, and then winning today against Sweden, and they've got themselves 6 points, so they're right up there in medal contention.
Well, when we saw the Finns play the Canadians, we said there was a lot of individual talent on this team, and we couldn't believe they hadn't put it together earlier. But as this tournament progressed, the Finns really did come on strong.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please refrain from throwing anything onto the ice?
Well, the announcement there from the PA system wants people to stop throwing things on the ice. I thought that would come naturally, especially here in the Soviet Union. It is very dangerous, of course, Richard, when people throw things onto the ice, especially something like a coin. A coin is warm, it has a tendency to stick to the ice. You can't see it until you hit it.
Oh, if a player catches an edge or skates over a coin or some kind of object on the ice, he's in risk of all kinds of personal damage, as he can go into the boards head first or hit whatever is the first thing coming toward him. Something you don't like to see.
In the National Hockey League, of course, they're famous for throwing things on the ice like rabbits and octopus and little mice. They've seen it all over there.
Oh, that's true. My university colors were green and gold, and we had the first goal scored against us one game, and we had about 35 green tennis balls launched on the ice. They'll come off the ice easy enough, but points and things don't.
Well, sorry, Richard, I have to break in there. A quick goal by the Soviets right here at the start of the third period. Let's look at this again. They make it 4-0. Homutov brings it over. The shot coming high on Skorodensky. A lovely little pass by Homutov, gets it over to the far side. And they put that one behind the goaltender to make it 4-0.
Well, that certainly didn't take long, Paul, as the period just started. Homutov came down and controlled that puck really well, made a lovely pass over. It was a blast from just inside the blue line to make the score 4-0.
Vyacheslav Bykov, number 27, getting that pass from Homutov and making no mistake here in the first minute of play. Well, some of the spectators were still making their way to the seats. I think the Canadians were still getting comfortable on the bench, but the Soviets knew exactly what they wanted to do.
Well, this is a line that we've said all along can just control the play at will, and they certainly did there as Kamensky moved that puck out really quick. Homutov down the wing on the fly. No mistake made on that goal at all.
So we'll do that face-off all over again. Struve getting it back to Graves.
Well, the Canadians have really got their back up against the wall now.
Loveson shoots it all the way into the far corner. Lane Lambert out there with Struve.
The referee has announced that if there are some particles thrown onto the ice,
and they're still talking about the particles being thrown on the ice. And they've just made the point that if anyone is caught doing that, they'll be ejected from the stadium. Struve for Canada. Struve stops, brings it in over the blue line. Graves, a wide and high shot, not even close to the net, and back come the Soviets. Kamensky, a lovely little move by Kamensky, bring it over. The shot whistles all the way by. The net came from Homutov's stick. A bit of a gift there from Kravchuk. Kravchuk to Lane Lambert. Lambert working his way in. Took the shot, deflected wide. Lambert right in front of the net, but where are the Canadians? Nowhere to be seen. Back come the Soviet Union. Fedorov taken out of the blue line. Couldn't keep a stick on that. Hadju. Hadju for Canada. Wants someone to pass to. Nemeth eventually comes along. Nemeth stops. Loses control, and Kristiakov. Torgayev now squeezed out of the play nicely by Bobby Dulles. Kristiakov to Fedorov. Fedorov takes the shot, and again it's high, wide of the target. Kravchuk can't keep that one in. Shadowed by Blaisdell. Hadju takes the shot, and this time it's on the target. One of the few shots that the Canadians have had on Irbe, and he came to the rescue for the Soviets. Hasn't had a lot of work so far in the game, but anything can happen in ice hockey. Kristiakov getting it over. Shipichin working his way in, and a good save as Skorodensky went down and it ended up flat on his back to make the save.
Lovely move with the skates by Kristiakov, and he got that puck over to Shipichin. I'm sure he wishes he could have that one back as he walked in on Skorodensky all alone.
Stельнов. Rink-wide pass, shot in, and Schlegel, Brad Schlegel for Canada up on the wing. The Soviets pushing two men forward and then getting all five back just as the Canadians get over the blue line. Schlegel again as the Canadians change on the fly. Schlegel, the pass up, and one too many red shirts there. The Soviets intercept that pass and break down the play. Todd Brost. Back to Schlegel. Schlegel's been on the ice for a long time. Bobby Dulles. Dulles fires that one all the way in as Irbe touches it. Shiryayev. Oh, a nice little pass by him. Up on the wing, over to the far side. Tkachuk. Taking a shot, he scores! He worked his way into the slot, took the wrist shot, and beat Warren Skorodensky low down on the far side.
Well, the look on Tkachuk's face says it all there. As he gets the pass up, he's on the left wing, he's a right-hand shot, moves into the center, fakes a move, takes a wrist shot. Bobby Dallas was moving across with him, and he beats Warren Skorodensky on the stick side. There you see it again. Tkachuk moves across the slot, takes the wrist shot real quickly. Skorodensky beat on the stick side of the ice.
Well, Richard, someone has thrown, it looks like ink or maybe some kind of coal out there, but it's not very nice. It's splattered down by the Canadian goal, and the officials are trying to scoop it off before it settles into the ice surface.
Well, the public announcement was just made that if anything else was thrown on the ice, they were going to stop this game. So we'll see what's going to happen here, as it does look like a lump of coal or something, and it's just spread all over the ice surface.
Well, that's not the kind of thing we like to see in any sporting event. The officials will have to bring out the scraper as Graves talks it over with the referee, Hakan Bjorkman. There's not a lot he can do about it. The Soviets leading this game 5-0 here in the third and final period. Kravchuk, who's played well on defense, got that first goal, a power play effort. Homutov on the big line, number 15, got the second goal. Torgaev with one knee on the ice got the third goal in the second period. Then just as we were getting settled into the third period, Bykov came out, number 27, took a good shot that beat Skorodensky, and then Tkachuk wearing number 9, Krutov's old number, showing that he can also put the puck in the net too.
Well, you hate to see things like this, as the players are the victims of circumstances here, as they're the ones putting this entertainment on for the fans, and to see something like this happen and potential injuries or a stoppage of play, it's just not really on.
So the team's getting a chance to sit on their benches and relax for a moment. Possibly a chance for Dave King, the Canadian coach, to talk to the boys and say, look, we really have to do something here. The announcement there confirming the goal by Tkachuk, number 9, the assist for Maslennikov, number 11. Struby talks to the Canadian official, and the Canadians, as I said, will welcome this break. Dave King not saying much to the boys. I think it's all been said, and I think at this time in the game they realize that they are being outplayed.
Oh, I'm sure they do, and say what you like, but I think overall Dave King is not unimpressed with the performance this team has put on. We've mentioned earlier it's a young team. The average age on it is 23 years old. Some of these players are ex-IHL, AHL players, a couple of NHLers thrown in there. There's a couple of college kids on this lineup, some junior players. This team has got a long way to go. They've come a long way. And I don't think that Dave King's got a real lot to be disgusted about with the performance of this team.
The Canadian national side play a 75-game schedule. They've been through about 25 of those games so far. They do travel all around the world. They have games in British Columbia, Canada, the Maritime provinces. They go to Japan, to Alaska, Davos, Switzerland, where we saw the European Championships a couple of years ago. A lovely little ice rink there up in the mountains in that wonderful ski resort. They go to Czechoslovakia. Here they are in the Soviet Union. They have a lot of ice hockey to play through the year, or through this year, but right now they're getting a lesson in ice hockey by the Soviet Union. The Soviets, of course, without so many big names, 8 players went over to the National Hockey League for the first time. Pryakin, of course, preceded everyone. He went over last year, but only saw limited action with Calgary. Now the boys are over there, and I have a feeling that a lot more will go in the future. A lot of Czechs, Finns, and Swedes, of course, have been going over there for years, but the first time the Soviets went over en masse this year saw what we thought would be a depleted side, but the Soviets proving right here that they still have a strong side indeed. A few Canadian supporters getting right into the action, and we're still having problems with the ice as we look at day 7 results. The latest score here, of course, is 5-0 for the Soviets over Canada. Czechoslovakia, a good victory for them over West Germany. West Germany, one of the better sides in the tournament. I think they have improved over the years, and they're looking stronger every time they go into a tournament. The Finns with that victory over their old rivals, Sweden, 3-1. Well, we got a glimpse of the father and son team taking in this hockey game. It really is a family sport, and we apologize here for the delay as they clear the ice. There's no way they can continue with the whatever it is out there on the ice. If a skate hits that when someone is skating by, it could cause serious damage. It could force someone, especially in the position it's in, force someone into the goalpost or into the boards, whatever, or into another player. Bykov, the captain, discussing things with the Soviet timekeeper. And the Canadians looking on. I'm sure they will welcome this break because the Soviets came out firing on all 6 cylinders at the start of this third period. They scored 2 goals with Bykov and Tkachuk, and now they got a bit of water on the situation. Lane Lambert wanting to make sure that every little bit of that particle or those particles out there are off the ice. Let's look at the standings. The Czechs have 7 points after their victory today. The Soviets with 6, but looking to pick up another 2 if they continue at this pace. Finland coming back strong at the end of the tournament with 3 wins, 2 losses, have 6 points also. The Canadians with 5. West Germany and Sweden propping up the bottom of the table. Again, we apologize for this delay. This game is coming to you live from the Sports Hall Luzhniki. Well, it looks like we're getting set now. It's all very simple for the Russians. All they have to do is win this one to pick up their 18th Izvestiya Cup since the start of this Izvestiya Cup back in 1967. Well, we're still waiting for things to happen out there. They're clearing the ice. We're going to take a break now. Join us in a moment. Thought that would be the scoreline at this stage in the game. We thought it was going to be a lot closer. The Canadians have been coming from behind as they did against the Swedes and the West Germans, but can they do it here, Richard?
Well, let's hope that this little break maybe has given them enough of a rest and a bit of a thought to get things going here a bit and climb back into this one.
Still a lot of time left in the third period. 3:39 gone in the period. And of course, they play 20-minute periods. Stop time, for those of you unfamiliar with the game. When play stops, then the clock stops. So, the Soviets playing from right to left, getting back into the action. Konstantinov, Poirier getting it back to Lambert. And too many red shirts around to do anything but steal the puck. Getting it over is Nemchinov. The Soviets walking in. The Canadians now with Lambert head-manning the puck. Canada coming back with Todd Struby. Struby steered out of the play as Graves smashes into his man with both arms up. Fedorov, the shot just wide as Skordensky was flat on his stomach. Struby missing a block there at center. Right in on goal. And Poudrier slow to react as Kristich was right in there for the Soviet Union. The Canadians are really not putting it together out there. Lambert getting it over. Lambert passed it to a player who was 2 feet away and who was covered, and really the Soviets all over the Canadians. A nice little pass over to Haju. Heru now going in on the corner, smothered out of the play by Tюриков. On to the left wing. The Soviets with Kamensky going right in net. Oh, that was so nice. And it looked so easy. Valery Kamensky, one of the stars of the future for the Soviet Union, took it right in front of Warren Skorodensky and then popped it into the open net.
Beautiful play by Kamensky. He comes down the left wing. He's a right-hand shot. Puts the move on. He's got Brad Schlegel beat. Walks around Skorodensky and flips the puck in the net very casually. A beautiful goal for Valery Kamensky. Here you see it once again. Kamensky's going down the left wing. His legs are moving. He cuts in toward the goal. Walks around the goaltender. Skorodensky had tried to throw the stick out at him. Walked around it and put the puck in very neatly for the 6th goal of this game.
Well, this is becoming a runaway for the Soviets. 6-0 the score here in the final period. Canada really being outplayed as Odelin goes back for it and gets it over to Lugson.
The administration of the stadium apologizes for the forced holding up of the game.
Well, the announcer saying that the administration of the stadium apologizes for that delay in the game. Bykov, it hasn't seemed to hurt the Soviets as Valery Kamensky went right in front. Bykov now. Bykov in the corner to Homutov. Kamensky backhanding it, and the Canadians picking up the loose puck and working their way out. Lovson to Heru, and he overskates it, and they really can't even pick up the easiest of passes. Stельнов got that one ahead. Schlegel waiting for Brost, Todd Brost. Boisvert lost it. Brost now. Brost, and they gave it away. The Soviets again with Торгаев. Торгаев now dropping it back. Bobby Dulles bounces that one off the woodwork, and that comes into the corner. Schreiber's back there doing some defensive work, holding up Торгаев. Has got his arm around him, and he's trying to bring him down. Konstantinov can't keep that one in. Eventually gives it to Fedorov, who gets it over to the far side of the rink. Complete domination throughout the 3 periods. Oh, Skorodensky lost that one completely, passed out front by Kristiakov. Now the break is on. Boisvert tried to take the shot. He fanned on it, and eventually the whistle blew, so we'll have another face-off.
Well, the puck's starting to bounce around quite a bit again, but it's not bouncing in the way for the Canadians.
Well, a nice little gesture there by V.V. Tikhonov. You're seeing the human side of a man who is often described as stone-faced, unemotional, and whatever else you want to add to it. Tapping one of his players on the helmet, giving him a wink and saying, well done. Kristiakov got that one as far as Lambert. Lambert for Canada, out over his own blue line, headmanning it to Strube. Strube flips it over the far side. The shot high and wide as the Soviets come up with it and tip it out. Konstantinov, a little pass to Fedorov. Stopped at the blue line, but again the Soviets are there to pick up the loose puck. Lugson for Canada. His pass is deflected high. Maslennikov for the Soviets lost it, and Lovson backhands it in as the teams change on the go here. Fedorov in front of his own net. Oh, way offside. Ilya Byakin took it in, but one of the Soviet forwards was about 6 feet offside, so we'll have a face-off.
That was Tkachuk that was offside, but it just gives you an indication as to how hungry these forwards are for the Soviets, as they just keep flying all over the ice, and they want more goals.
They're out there to impress, of course, and to prove a point. As we said, so many good Soviet players have gone to the National Hockey League, and they just want to show that they really didn't need them after all. Working his way in now for Canada is Haju. Couldn't get a handle on that one. Puck trickled behind the net. The Canadians shoot it back in, but it went over the blue line, so it'll be an offside call.
Well, once again, the Canadians trying to do it on their own. Richard Hadji with a nice play there. It almost came off for him, but he needed a line mate or two.
Canadians not giving each other the support that they need, breaking, as you said, in ones and twos. The Soviets going up sometimes with as many as 4 players forward. Schlegel. Tюrikov. Kravchuk. The Soviets with Kravchuk taken out, and eventually they pick it up right in front. Oh! And Maslennikov missed it again. And I'm sure after this tournament is over, that youngster will have to take some shooting practices. We've seen him miss so many opportunities during this tournament. Let's watch this one again.
Well, he was set up very nicely there as the 2 players came in, they set him up. Warren Skordensky did come across nicely, but had he gotten the puck on the net, it would have been a goal. Now we keep talking about the strength of this Soviet side and the players they've lost. Well, not in defensive Canada, but let's give them a break. The NHL players are in the NHL right now, and there's a lot stronger of a team that would be represented had those players been over here as well.
Well, for sure, the likes of Gretzky and Lemieux and whoever.
That goes to say for the Swedes, the Finns, the Czechs as well, as a lot of their top players are seeing action in the NHL at the moment as well.
This tournament being used by several of the teams as a proving ground for players. They want to see what they can do, and that's what the Czechs are doing. They left out a lot of their best players when they came here, and they're working towards the World Championships in the spring as Stельнов gets it over. Nemchinov head-manning the puck. Kristich, the Canadians. Wally Schreiber with Boisvert. Again, the Soviets, some brilliant back-checking, taking control of the play just as the Canadians think they have it. Loveson for Canada at center. Loveson spinning around, trying to get away from Nemchinov. Boisvert taken out of the play by Dmitry Kristich. To the far side, the Canadians starting to bunch, starting to follow the puck. Right in front, and that's tipped into the net. A lovely little play by the Soviets. Fedorov was there to get the final touch. 7-0 the score. And again, this is a runaway.
See the replay here. Fedorov with some beautiful moves as he comes into the zone. Puts a couple of nice moves on, slides the puck through ever so neatly, and the final touch just had to be applied with a stick, and it was there.
So the Soviets extending their lead 7-0 here in the third period. Bykov now to Homutov. Homutov right in front. And Bykov and Kamensky just failing to combine, putting it right in front of the net. Bykov so dangerous out there. Again, as we approach the midpoint in the final period, the Soviets apply the pressure. Lane Lambert loses that one along the boards. Byakin with Homutov doing a good job of keeping the puck away from the Canadians. Well, Bjorkman is making his way over to the far side of the rink. And Lane Lambert is over there and he's talking to him. He's not happy with that call. Steve Graves for Canada will go into the box to add to their troubles. He'll be in there for 2 minutes. And Dave King scratches his head. Totally outplayed the Canadians here in the third period by the Soviets. Here we see the replay.
Team Canada, misconduct penalty. Steve Graves, number 17, time 10-14.
So Graves getting a misconduct penalty. The shot right on goal. It's obviously something Graves said. He wasn't happy with that play because when they showed the replay, there wasn't anything there at all to indicate a penalty. Торгаев flipping it out as Poudrier combines with Loveson. Poudrier all the way in, and Tюриков touches it, and we'll have another face-off. So the Canadians behind the 8 ball here. They trail 7-0 in the third period. A lackluster performance by Team Canada. The Soviets, on the other hand, have been brilliant.
Well, and as we see this game going on, we see a lot of players contributing to this Russian side that don't normally see a lot of ice time. As that last play with Lomakin and Kristich setting up together nicely.
So the Canadians with a man in the penalty box, but he's there for a misconduct penalty.
If you're not that familiar with the game, a misconduct penalty is a personal penalty. It's a 10-minute penalty, which means your team does not skate shorthanded. You are just penalized for 10 minutes. No matter what happens in the game, you do not come out of the box until your 10 minutes is served.
Well, the whistle blows there as play slows down to a bit of a crawl here. And Shiryaев and the Canadians work their way out of the Soviet zone. Some happy faces coming from Kamensky in particular. He knows he's on television. Igor Maslennikov getting set to pounce along with Odelin for Canada. So from the face-off in the Canadian zone, the Canadians now really need to pull something out of their bag of tricks to bring them back into this game. It looks unlikely the way they're playing. Boisvert for Canada pushes it back into the Soviet zone. Stельнов turns nicely as Boisvert comes in, chases in Schreiber. Schreiber sees the loose puck and can't get to it. The Soviets totally in control in their own end as Shiryaев goes back over the blue line to pick it up. Shiryaев for the Soviets, taking his time up on the wing. Oh, a nice little pass. Kristich handed over. Lomakin taken out of the play. Lomakin again, and the Canadians work their way out. A long pass by Lambert, intended for Heru. Just a bit too far. The break would have been on there had Heru been able to hang on to that. Kristich, who's played so well throughout this tournament, knocked down a Konstantinov, couldn't hang on to that one, and the Soviets go back into their own zone. They lead by 7-0. The Canadians are just going through the motions right now. Loveson for Canada loses control of it. Lomakin getting it over, intercepted nicely by the Canadians, and they come back on the attack. Heru flips it up to Lambert, back to Heru. Heru drops it back, and number 12, Nemchinov, could see that coming a mile away. The Soviets coming back on the attack, and that's not a particularly good move by them, but they really don't care at this point as they bring it back into their own zone. They're leading. They're happy with their performance as Kamensky works it out there with Bykov and Homutov. Homutov brings it out over the blue line, and Bykov will take his time and wait for his teammates to get into position. Oh, a nice little move there by Homutov. Kamensky getting it right out front. The shot coming from Bykov. It's deflected high over the net. Another shot, and that's gloved by Skorodensky. Bykov was right there to take the shot, and that was labeled for the far corner of the net.
Nice glove save by Skorodensky, but this line is so nice to watch. This is hockey at its best right here when you see Homutov, Kamensky, and Bykov out there moving that puck around like they are at the moment.
Canada standing by and watching a great performance from the Soviets. Торгаев in the corner. Торгаев wins it, getting it right out front. Number 18, Bobby Dulles, comes to the rescue. And we're going to have another penalty on the play. Håkan Björkman, the Swedish official, skates over to the timekeeper. Pavel Торгаев is shaking his head and feeling his face. And the Canadians with a man in the box.
Well, that'll be Brad Schlegel sitting down for 2 minutes on that one. Торгаев coming around the net here on the replay as you see it. He's really lumbering that puck around, and Brad Schlegel got the stick up high on him. Unintentional, he was trying to put the hook on him from behind. Stick came up a little bit high. Торгаев took it across the face. He's okay. Schlegel sits out for 2 minutes.
Bobby Dulles wrestles with the Soviet player Kristiakov in the corner. Now the Canadians trying to push it out. Eventually it trickles out over the blue line. Fedorov, a rink-wide pass right on the blue line. Bobby Dulles will get there first. Kristiakov holds that against the boards, and number 10, Торгаев, still out there on the ice, pushed it back to the point, and that's in the net. The rebound from the backboards went right by Skorodensky, and it was so easy to put in the net. Kristiakov getting a piece of that one to make it 8-0.
Well, the play was in the corner, and Торгаев moved the puck back to the point. It was a big shot from the point. It went off the backboards. Skorodensky was out to cut the angle down. As it came off the backboards, Kristiakov was right on that other post. He just wrapped the rebound into the open net.
Scoring on a power play for the USSR, number 21. Assist Valeri Shiryaев, number 14.
Well, there's the score. Dave King with his head down. 8-0 for the Soviets over Canada. A complete runaway, a complete rout. And again, the Soviets pile it on. Tkachuk leaving it at center, wants the return pass. Ilya Byakin getting it back to Konstantinov. Byakin losing it. Lane Lambert trickles that one in front of Artur Irbe. And that's one of the best opportunities they've had this period. Strube having words with the official as that whistle blew.
I think they're both going to go on this one, Paul, as the referee did see the first one. Todd Strube in front of the net gave Byakin a nice slash across the forearms. As the puck went back to the corner, Strube was going for the puck. Byakin followed him in, gave him a good shot from the side. Referee was right on it.
Well, Strube's still out on the ice. Byakin has made his way to the penalty box, coming up to the 15-minute mark.
There you see it, just after that first play had happened with Strube and Byakin. The play goes into the corner. There goes Byakin, right behind Strube, and he gives him a good shot.
The Canadians taking a lot of time to get set for this face-off. They still want to talk to Björkman, the Swedish referee. Now Strube has made his way to the penalty box. It took a long time for him to get there. They wanted to talk it over with Björkman. And here comes the announcement from the officials here in the sports hall Luzhniki. Tipped down by Boisvert, deflected wide. Boisvert eventually comes back and gets into the action.
Well, just as we thought it was, Paul, it was 2 minutes on Byakin for a cross-check. Strube picks up the 2 minutes for slashing.
Offside, the call there. And the Canadians trailing by 8 now. Well, I'm sure they just want to get this one over with. Odelin at center, taking his time. He's got Lovson. Odelin allowed to skate forward up to the Soviet blue line. Odelin going in on the backhand side. Tюриков comes in and takes him out of the play nicely. The Canadians still with the puck as Poudrier shoots it. Boisvert golfs it back in. Schreiber at the top of the slot, going in on the backhand side, still at Schreiber. They skate around the net, behind the net, but they're not being allowed to get near the net as Kravchuk gets it ahead to Nemchinov. Nemchinov now. Nemchinov still being shadowed by Poudrier and has been eventually pushed out of the play. The pass came out front from Lomakin. Schreiber, Wally Schreiber for Canada. Offside as Todd Rost was in there. Number 19 for Canada. Just a step in offside. And the Canadians having difficulty when they come up against the Soviets at the blue line.
For the viewers that are tuning in to watch the Marathon Story, we're going to stay with the ice hockey, and Marathon Story will follow.
Schlegel now for Canada. This game coming to you live from the Soviet Union, and we had a considerable delay when something was thrown onto the ice. It took a long time to eventually scrape it off the ice, and so we have a late situation here in Moscow. The Canadians are trailing by 8-0. Bykov getting it right in front. Kamensky was there. The Canadians got to stick to it and pushed it out into the neutral zone. Bykov shrugs off a check. Schlegel picks up the loose puck in his own zone, and the Canadians now working it out down the left wing. Bobby Dallas, with no support at all, is taken out by Valery Shiryaев. Shiryaев spun out of the play. Canadians back at full strength. Boisvert there. Stельнов backhands it up to the blue line. A lovely little pass by him. The Soviets have so much space. Working their way in now, right on goal. Backhanding it to the far side, and just a bit too cute. Торгаев goes all the way back for it, but they can afford to be cute at this stage. Lane Lambert taking that pass. Struby was in there. Offside the call. Canadians unable to get anything together at all. Well, who could have predicted this score when this game started? We thought it was going to be close, but the Soviets have really turned on the pressure here, showed their style, and they're having problems with our from the Soviet Union. A breakup on the screen. The Soviets leading by 8-0, and we apologize for the loss of pictures. We will return to ice hockey as soon as possible, so stay with us. So the Soviets out on the ice along with Canada. You can't see the game right now. The Soviets are leading in the third and final period of the Izvestiya tournament, 8-0. Kravchuk started it with a power play goal in the first period for the Soviets. Homutov, Торгаев in the second made it 3-0. Bykov, Ткачук, Каменский, Kristich, and Kristiakov all replied for the Soviet Union to make it 8-0. It really has been a great performance by the Soviet Union. Canadians simply outplayed at every turn, at every point during the three periods. Again, we apologize for the loss of pictures. That's a technical fault coming from the Soviet Union. We're going to take a short break now. Join us in a moment. Welcome back to the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, the pictures have been lost for good, so we assume now that the Soviets have won this game. They're winning by 8-0. Here are the results on day 7. The Soviets beating Canada at least by 8-0. 5-0 for Czechoslovakia over West Germany, and the Finns come up with another victory, 3-1 over Sweden. Let's take a look at the standings. The Soviets win the Izvestiya tournament once again. That's number 18 for them. The Czechs are second, the Finns third, and the Canadians down in fourth. The West Germans in fifth, and the Swedes, with a disappointing performance from them, are at the bottom of the table. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Izvestiya tournament. Merry Christmas to everyone who's watching. Until next time, from Richard Beaupre and myself, Paul Ferguson, bye for now.